Present are committee members Tim McCarthy and Kevin Fuller, and we have Law Director Case Andretto and Kelly Chalfant from HR in the crowd, and our new engineer as well. So let's go ahead and any objections to approving the meeting minutes from November 23rd? I know Kevin was not part of those.
They're fine.
Fine with you, Tim? And we have a crowd member that was there. Any input, random member from the crowd?
No objections.
Those seem accurate to you? Okay. That's council member Mark Weber also was present and on the committee for that meeting. No problem with the minutes there, so we'll go ahead and approve those. And then I will hand it over to Kelly for some new positions we're looking into.
Yes, before you have a proposed job description for a staff engineer and an HR coordinator. As I indicated in the email that I sent with the agenda, the staff engineer is to replace Mike Johnson, who, for Kevin's benefit, was an engineering technician that we lost in April of 2020. We have not filled that position. So when we did the wage and compensation study, we included a staff engineer in the pay bands that we created at the end of 2021. So this is the job description. We'd like to start recruiting for that position and get Brian some help.
Okay.
So this is the job description that you helped put together for us.
Was this job description, was this accounted for in the budget then?
Yes.
Okay.
I know we've been talking about this hasn't necessarily been on our agenda, but it's been in our purview for a while.
It's been on the radar for a while.
Especially when we made the hire. I know that was part of the discussion, is getting some staff support in there.
Right.
So we can.
It's time to do that now.
Perfect. Anything you want to add? Just looking forward to starting the interviews and stuff?
Yep, just here in case you guys had any questions.
I guess I see the essential functions and stuff. Can you give me explain it to me like on 5, just recap of what you're looking for to aid you? Is it just like an all-around aid position? What?
Well, it's kind of hard because there's so many different directions I could go with it.
Uh-huh.
So I'm kind of looking at big picture. This is what I want the department to be able to do.
Yep.
But I don't want to make the job description so specific that either nobody applies or people apply that don't meet that qualification. So you'll notice there are a lot of could include, may include, just because I want to kind of leave it open to see who applies. So ideally, I'd like to get it kind of set up. The setup I had in Finley that worked really well for me. I had somebody there that had worked for a contractor, doing their estimating, running some of the equipment, that kind of stuff. So I got him. So I take care of all the design on the projects, get it all ready to go, get approvals from all the permitting that we need, hand it over to him. Then he would bid it and run it through construction and close it out.
Okay.
That worked really well, but I don't have to do that here. I mean, if I get people, qualified people that apply that have that experience, that would be great. But if everybody applies only has planning experience, that's fine too, because I've got construction experience. So I tried to keep it open there. So I'd like to get somebody hopefully with some experience that would come in that, between the two of us, I want to look at doing more design in-house, small water line projects, traffic signal improvements, that kind of stuff, so we're not outsourcing that out, try to save some money. But as far as who would be doing what, I just really kind of want to wait and see who applies.
It kind of,
Yeah.
I think I will say from my perspective, it's Brian, right?
Yeah.
That is refreshing to hear. I think when we hired you, part of it seemed like part of the new direction in the hire was trying to keep things in-house and getting rid of some of these outsourced contracts. If we could stick with that as far as a staff engineer to help you and make it so, I would say this as part of the personnel committee, one of the themes I would like to be looking into is, especially in positions like this, people that can pay for themselves.
Right.
Their salaries are justified just in what they save us from outsourcing. If we can stick with that theme, I think that's a pattern for success, and I really appreciate you kind of having that same view, it sounds like.
I had just a couple of questions about a couple of these things. Now, you're ultimately supervising, but this says in two places, the staff engineer will assist with supervision of professional and paraprofessional engineering personnel. Now, those aren't going to be city employees, or are they? I mean, who's he supervising? Then, second part of the question is related, though, is supervise, I can't find it here, seasonal help, and summer interns, and that sort of thing. What supervisory responsibilities is he going to have?
Well, I'm hoping in the future, depending on how things go, to potentially add another construction inspector. If this person that we end up hiring has, the construction experience and the project management experience, then they'd probably be overseeing the construction inspectors, where they would report directly to this person, and they would report to me. Also want to keep that in there, so if I'm on vacation for the week, I'd expect this person to kind of make sure the office keeps running, kind of fill in. I'm on a couple of team of cog committees, if I can't do that, they kind of fill in for that. I'm really hoping to kind of grow them up so it'd be more of an assistant, even though the job title is staff engineer, but kind of be the second in command, making sure the office gets run and things keep on track.
And maybe this is a question for Kelly, because it sounds like you're kind of describing a deputy engineer, somewhat.
Yeah,
Do we have a title that we planned on hiring a deputy engineer, or? And I'm not trying to get
No.
stuck on it, but
No, we haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
yet. So this is,
okay, yeah.
the only thing that occurred to me, Kelly, is, and I know it's largely dependent on who you can find,
Right.
but this position in particular is getting close to being exempt for FLSA purposes.
Okay, we can.
Depending on the degree to which he or she supervises. There's some about exercising discretion, independent judgment, the evaluation, selection, and adaptation of accepted engineering products and criteria. It's just something worth thinking about.
Okay.
Well, I know Mike was not exempt. He was not exempt. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you want to give that some thought, or if that's something we think about down the road, depending on who you get.
Yeah, I'll pull the department labor definitions. I actually have them on my desk from a private project, so I'll pull them out and we'll recheck those.
Okay. All right.
No problem?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything on here that's been maybe not typical to the role? Is this any of this new, or is this kind of just in place of the role that was already there? I mean, what we're seeing on paper here.
The former employee that we have was not an engineer, so
Okay.
he did not have quite the skill set, but very good at what he did, but this is a little more elevated.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so when we hired Brian, we were trying to broaden the scope of what our engineering department does and try to keep.
Yeah, because we sourced out
Everything.
everything before, but our prior engineer didn't anything.
Okay.
He was a project manager.
And this is a direct subordinate to you?
Yes.
Okay. And you're taking part of the interview process, I imagine?
Absolutely, every interview process.
All right.
I have no more.
Good to me.
Anything else? Okay. Awesome sauce. The next one before you.
Thanks, Brian.
Is a human resources coordinator position, which is also in the pay bands. This is not an additional position. Well, it's not an additional position. My thought process was my administrative assistant, Elaine, has taken on so much additional responsibility because of her background at Rossburg. She's so familiar with case management for workers' compensation and health and benefits administration. She has really jumped in and is very intent on all of that stuff. So I'm just trying to differentiate. It's not a different pay scale. It's the same pay band as administrative assistant or executive assistant, I think is what her title is now. But just to clarify that she is doing some very in-depth, she does all the reporting for PERP reports for OSHA, which I'm hoping that we can hire a safety clerk or occupational health and safety person, they'll be able to help with that too. But she's really doing a lot of case management. She's on the phone all the time with our health insurance broker, trying to iron out problems with health insurance and claims. Very hands-on with everything, and setting up our interview process and coordinating all of that. She's very involved.
And she's on board for taking on a new title?
Oh,
So-
yeah, she doesn't care what we call it.
Yeah, does it expand what she does now? Or what's expected of her?
This accurately reflects what she's doing now,
Okay,
which is much more than what she was hired to do.
okay, and I'm just going to be candid and ask it, although it's not necessarily. Has she been compensated for the extra role she's taken on, for being exemplary?
She's making whatever she's making,
I know, I'm just saying if she's taken on extra, I would hate to give someone a promotion and title only rather than some recognition and pay as well. So if that's been taken care of through the course of years.
Well, and she's only been here a year and a half, so.
Oh, Elaine's only been here that long?
She was part-time in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my Elaine.
Okay.
As opposed to.
Yes.
Bridget's Elaine.
I'm getting
Or
confused.
Kate's Elaine, or the mayor's Elaine.
Yeah.
So my Elaine has only been here since 2019.
Okay.
And then she was part-time, and then started full-time at the beginning, the very end of 2019.
Okay.
So, then we transitioned her full-time.
And how long has she been full-time in HR?
For us, just over a year.
Just over a year, okay.
So she
I thought
started-
for a while, wasn't she shared with someone else or some silly
She was
thing?
helping the law director out a little
Oh.
bit as a part-time person, but really, she jumped in full force with all the HR stuff because of all the experience she brought from Rossford. She was with Rossford for many years.
We're-
Doing their payroll, benefits, workers' compensation, a little bit of everything.
And to go along with that, I think Kate and I have discussed this, I think previous, we can expect a request for like a legal intern at some point, right?
He's already started.
Already
You
started.
guys don't
Oh,
have to
okay.
approve it.
So,
He's
perfect.
in the budget, he doesn't,
Perfect.
we made a job description for legal intern.
Good. I just wanted to make sure, we're not,
He started yesterday.
Yeah.
Good.
So she was originally supposed to be split as sort of an administrative assistant between the two of us, when I was Laura, not me. As it turns out, Elaine is, quite frankly, too good at what she does, human resources wise, to do that and to be split. So instead, I sort of share the other Elaine, which makes these minutes really super confusing. I share Elaine Pantorno, who is very good at editing and helps me with any of the sort of administrative assistant stuff that I need with the mayor and with Bridget, because Elaine Bishop spends so much time HR. It was not practical to use the job the way it was originally hired.
Yeah. She's in the, I think she's.
okay, and I guess that stems back to why I asked the question is, hey, are we making sure she's getting taken care of compensation wise?
Yeah,
If she,
she's fine.
okay,
Sounds good.
Any questions?
Okay, and I don't know, just Councilman Foley, just so you know, these are now just approved. The way that our codified ordinances work, these don't go on to city council. Once personnel approves these new job descriptions, we're done. So
Okay.
when you don't see it on the council packet, don't freak out. It's
Okay,
it's
all right.
not-
Thank you.
It's one of the
That
only
would-
things that happens at committee level that doesn't move forward to council as well.
Okay, thank you.
restructuring of the law department, what I'll say is there's been some activity on that today. I think we're still waiting on outside council opinion on that, so I appreciate that. Getting over there, is there any discussion you want to have on that today? Or you want to just wait till the next meeting?
You have my legal opinion on this.
Okay, yep.
I didn't have a chance to read it yet, but I have it.
Yep. Yeah, I got it, I kind of skimmed it, saw there's some case law. We'll go from there. It's a tad more formal than I was expecting, so I'll dig into it later. But I would expect that to be on the agenda next time, and hopefully we have something from Mike Marsh. I appreciate him looking at that as well. Any other business from you two? I would say, I have an email from Council President Jonathan Smith, and this is something we've kind of discussed in the past. So the email reads, I have a request to look into passing legislation that all non-bargaining employees' raises are reported to the Personnel Committee on an annual basis. I think this kind of echoes the same theme I've had is I want to get in the habit of looking at wages, making sure we're on top of things as far as, inflation's a big deal right now, right? Making sure we're on top of paying our employees appropriately, making sure we're competitive. And I also tend to agree with this, that we should look into legislation, not necessarily changing what we have as far as reviewing what the administration is doing or approving it, but set in stone, hey, we're going to get a report once a year that goes over what the raises were for all non-bargaining employees. And Kate, I guess what I'll do is forward that on to you for potential legislation so that we can kind of mull that over for next personnel committee. But I do support that idea in general.
Yeah.
I think it kind of puts us all on notice that it's something we got to stop and do. So, anything else?
Nope.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn.